Hey guys, my name is Flipper's Paragraph, and welcome to the channel. I am going to do movie reviews here. Just review anything I want to review, anything you guys want to review. TV shows, movies, internet shit, doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want me to review, I'll give it a shot. So, yeah, until then, I'm just going to keep reviewing whatever I want to review. And the first thing that I'd like to review is a film called Alice from 1988, directed by Svankmajer and starring Kristýna Kohoutová. This is a surrealist take on Lewis Carroll's original book, Alice in Wonderland, which of course Disney made into a movie in 1958. Fuck, it was 1951. Anyway, so Alice, 1988. This film was pretty good. However, there was a lot of things wrong with it. I'll start off with the positives. It was extremely well crafted. I will say that much. It was extremely well done in the technical department. The stop motion animation was exceptionally done. It was interesting. It was combined well and in imaginative ways with the live action stuff. And it was a delight to watch all this cool stop motion, especially a person like me who's a huge fan of stop motion. It was really, really fun to watch these interesting dolls and puppets that they used. It was a delight to watch in terms of the technical abilities of the film. And the cinematography itself, this gorgeous, what looks like 16 millimeter film. I have no way of confirming whether or not it was 16 millimeter film. It probably wasn't. It was probably 35. But it looks like it has that 16 millimeter aesthetic of this cool grain and these nice colors, these nice sleek colors that are poppy and contrasty and saturated. And it just looks really nice. It has a very warm glow to the whole picture. And the movie, in the technical sense, was so well done, it almost overshadows the story sometimes. But unfortunately, the story is where the movie falters a lot. The movie has a lot of interesting moments. And those moments, unfortunately, don't add up to much. For example, there's some horror aspects to the movie where these puppets made out of bones start attacking Alice. And there's some comedic aspects to the movie, I think, where the rabbit goes around the long side of the table every single time, which I think was supposed to be comedic. Or at least it was supposed to be weird. And it succeeded in being weird. It succeeded in being a very surreal story. That much I'll give it to the film, for sure. It was extremely surreal. It was extremely experimental, for sure. Svankmajer tends to make movies that are very experimental, like Faust, which is another one that he made that was pretty bizarre, I'll say. It was pretty bizarre. But the main problem with the movie is that any semblance of the story from Alice in Wonderland is kind of lost in the abstraction and the experimentation of the whole thing. So the problem with the script is essentially this. Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland is a pretty amazing book. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's pretty good. And there's a lot of story behind it. There's a lot of characters that have interesting motivations, that have interesting quirks and mannerisms, and a lot of the characters return, like the caterpillar, like the white rabbit, especially the white rabbit. But the white rabbit, for example, and I'll use him as an example for a while, is his whole motivation is, oh no, I'm going to be late, which is fine. That's enough of a motivation for a character like the white rabbit to have. But the problem comes when he doesn't follow that very simple motivation. And instead, he just kind of does whatever. He really doesn't have much that he's trying to do or much that he's trying to accomplish. He says he doesn't want to be late, and he's kind of the queen's servant. His role in the story isn't very well defined, so sometimes it feels like he's just a character that does whatever the plot necessitates of him instead of doing things based on his own accord. it never feels like he does anything because he wants to do something. It always feels like he's doing something not because he wants to or because he has to or because he needs to, but because he is compelled to based on how the story is going. Like, there was no indication, really, throughout the entire story that he was, like, the queen's servant or anything. And then all of a sudden, at the end, he's doing whatever the queen orders, kind of following her around like a servant. And, I mean, let's just go through the whole film. So, the story opens on Alice being read the story from the book. And it's wonderful. It's shot on this gorgeous film. The acting of the young Alice is pretty good throughout the whole film, actually. It's nothing extraordinary, it's nothing perfect, but it's pretty good for a child actor, especially a child actor of the late 80s. Alice goes back to her house, and she starts playing with her toys, and then all of a sudden the white rabbit comes to life, and he escapes into a doorway, and she follows him. And she goes all the way, chasing him, and eventually they go down a rabbit hole, and the whole story starts from there. You have the bits with eating the cookies that make you big and drinking the potion that makes you small. And that's another thing, is that there's no consistency in this movie. So, like, the cookies originally make you big, and then later in the film they make you small. The same thing with the potion. The potion originally makes you small. Later in the film, it makes you big, or maybe I have it mixed up. Either way, you get what I mean. They have no consistency with what one thing does or with what another thing does. Nobody on this film has any sides. There's no real goal for Alice. She's just kind of wandering through this maze that is Wonderland. And Wonderland, by the way, is a horror show. It's a fucking nightmare. It is so spooky and scary and terrifying, all of which mean the same thing, I'm now realizing. And she wanders through this wonderland with no real sense of fear, which doesn't really make sense to me considering she's a child and she typically should be afraid of these things. But no, she just kind of goes through it with a bit of an absent expression on her face, which is where her acting kind of falters sometimes. And I think it's where the direction by Svankmajer also falters a little, because it didn't feel like he had much to really work with. Instead, it just kind of felt like they were doing what they were doing, and the characters were going about the story the way that they were compelled to, instead of the way that they felt they should, the way that the story would naturally progress so that they would end up that way. Now, I'm not a cinema purist. I'm not a traditionalist. I'm not one of those people who thinks, oh, every story should have a 3-act structure and be this, this, and this. I don't believe that. However, what I do believe is that if you're going to experiment, you really have to have some core of the film. And Alice didn't feel like it had a core. I'll take another example of an experimental film, a film like Eraserhead. At its core is about a man who isn't ready to be a father yet. That's what Eraserhead is about. I can't tell you what Alice is about. Not really. I can tell you things that happen in Alice, and I can tell you things that could happen in Alice, things that would have happened if it was a better movie, but I can't tell you what the film is really about. I can tell you that it's about a girl that goes into Wonderland, but that doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't really tell us a person who has a problem, if that makes sense. So, Alice, overall, a technical marvel. Really, it's technically extraordinary. The sound design is wonderful. I think it's wonderful. The cinematography is gorgeous. It's really, really gorgeous. The stop motion is well mixed with the visuals. The stop motion is well mixed with the live action stuff, and it all just flows very well, very lucidly, very dreamlike, very nightmare-like, I should say. But at the end of the day, the script is just missing that core that would make it what felt to me like a real movie. And instead it just feels like a showcase of stop motion animation instead of like a real film, which is what was missing from Alice. So I give Alice a 70%. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like. If you wish, you can follow me on Patreon. I'll do some Twitch streams eventually if people want to see that. Whatever you guys want, just let me know down in the comment section what reviews you guys want to see. And that's that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.